Okay, thank you so much, Alex. Today, coming to my show, and also I'm pretty happy and honored to interview you as the co-founder of deBridge. And I think now a lot of people see deBridge on Twitter and everywhere because you guys now going to the launching the token on multiple platform, but mostly people know about you guys. I think launching on Jupiter. That's something we'd like to touch upon today. But let's start from introduction of yourself, if you don't mind.
Yeah, for sure. First of all, hello, Jerry. Thank you for hosting me today. My name is Alex. I'm a co-founder at deBridge, one of the devs who's doing something behind the scenes. And yeah, we're building deBridge, which is a high-performance cross-chain interoperability infrastructure. Basically, you can think of it as the fastest bridge. So our goal is to enable lightning-fast transfers of information and liquidity between different chains, right? And we are solving very, nascent problem in the space because, like, bridging has been always very hard process for users, right? And not predictable, not secure. And whenever users tried to bridge some liquidity, they were scared, right? That the liquidity will stuck, or that they will have to kind of reach out to support to revert transaction, or that bridge will be hacked, due to all the incidents that happened in the past. And in deBridge, we are really trying to shift the paradigm and kind of prove to users and everyone that bridging can be truly secure and it can be fast as well. So the UX can be similar to the one that we have on the centralized exchanges, where we don't need to wait for 25, 30 minutes. We don't need to wait for transaction finality. And I think the reason why all of this became possible is quite a new innovative design that we pioneered, right? Because classical bridges, historically, were always built as liquidity protocols. They all use liquidity pools. And we shifted the needle or changed the paradigm from liquidity pool-based model to liquidity in time or liquidity on demand approach, which is based on zero TVA. So we don't use pools, but instead we pioneer cross-chain intents that users can leverage to kind of enjoy very fast bridging that happen without slippage and without liquidity at risk. So yeah, that's sort of what we are building in a nutshell.
Thank you so much. And before going to the details, congratulations on winning the first position for the Jupiter Launchpad. How did you manage to, gain those trust and also, support from the community, do you think?
Yeah, I think one of the reasons is because we have very similar vision to Jupiter team, because Jupiter team is proven to innovate, right, in this space. They built the most popular dApp on Solana and probably one of the most kind of used applications in the entire DeFi and crypto. Plus, they managed to achieve very high scalability and really good network effects, right? And the guys has achieved all of this without any venture funding, which is just incredible, right? And in deBridge, we are builders originally, and we are taking decisions sometimes that are not classical, not standard. And Solana has been one of our early bets. Basically, the story started from the summer 2021 when we received a small grant from Solana Foundation. But back then, even before deBridge was live on mainnet, we were thinking okay, we start from EVM chains. Obviously, EVM is kind of number one ecosystem. We have Ethereum, we have a number of rollups and layer twos that are evolving. But what should be the first non-EVM chain that we need to integrate with? And we've been considering various options, but I really like the vision, that Tolly has. And I had kind of feeling that Solana is going to take off because the community was amazing, because the culture is just incredible, because it's all about builders, people who are trying to innovate, create some really cool apps with great design. It's not about theory when you just like try to create some kind of mathematical theoretical primitives. It's about practice when you try to create the application that people are going to use. And this kind of building culture was very in line with what we had in mind. And yeah, Solana became like the first non-event chain that we started to integrate with. It took us like almost 2 years from the moment we started to the moment we got into production. So we launched on Solana mainnet back in June 2023. And from the beginning, like Jupiter was the first app or first infrastructure that we integrated with deBridge in order to enable trades or transfers into any liquid assets on Solana. And basically, deBridge users has generated a lot of volume and activity on Jupyter smart contracts, even before Jupiter issued the token, right? And not only our users, but also our solvers, our kind of market makers who fulfill users' transfers or intents on deBridge. And that's why deBridge community was one of the biggest airdrop receivers from Jupiter. I think, yeah, deBridge users got almost 4 million Jup tokens.
Wow.
And that created some, organic network effects. So basically, deBridge community became the active user of Jupiter platform under the hood, even though they interacted with like deBridge app. And Jupiter community started to find out about deBridge as well, right? And one of the big triggers for overall growth of deBridge was integration of our infrastructure into Jupiter's bridge comparator product, because people started to discover the the approach and the deBridge as a solution. People were super tired from the bad user experience, long bridging transaction, and when they first time tried deBridge, they had this like wow effect when transfer is getting settled in seconds without slippage and in very predictable manner, right? So like if users always control the execution. In the worst case scenario, if trade is not getting fulfilled by solver, user can cancel at any moment and get his funds back. So users don't need to be afraid. And that created very interesting network effects. Basically, users started to be our ambassadors. They started to spread the word organically and like without any paid marketing, deBridge started to gain like very good traction. The volume started to grow, and that made us to grow in terms of like how bridge is comparable to other Solana bridges. And yeah, it's been like insane journey, and it's been amazing to see that now we became like #1 bridge for the Solana ecosystem. Users really appreciate the product, and the UX, and they organically spread the word. So they became our ambassador without any marketing budgets. We kind of gained some popularity, and not only from like Jupiter community, but we also have a number of projects within Solana who integrated our infrastructure, leverage that daily to enable, fastest cross-chain experience. That comes to Solflare wallet, for example, who natively integrated deBridge into the app and their MetaMask snaps, and then onboarded like hundreds of thousands of users from EVM to Solana. That comes to Zeta, who integrated our widget to enable cross-chain deposits to their perp trading platform, and many other cases. So that's how like this all started to evolve, and yeah, we're like very happy to see that now deBridge is like #1 bridge for Solana ecosystem and beyond.
Yeah, I saw many tweets saying once they use the deBridge, they cannot go back, and I feel the same way. And actually, that's the case for me. And deBridge is pretty fast, secure, and also cheap. You kind of explain about how you guys provide liquidity as a system, but how does it really work?
So yeah, that's a good question. So instead, like we were early to realize that liquidity pool-based model has a bunch of drawbacks, right? And the V1 of our cross-chain value transfer protocol was actually based on pools. We leveraged Curve protocol for settlement, right? Because like for cross-chain interoperability, the foundation is messaging. Like messaging is needed in order to start building cross-chain primitives. And even though it's like foundation, it's not sufficient because like no one is using messaging, right? People need to transfer liquidity very quickly and efficiently. That's why even though messaging is foundation, we need to have a very efficient and fast liquidity layer. And the first version of the protocol that we built was leveraging pools as well, right? But we were early to understand that the model has a bunch of bottlenecks. First, it's not scalable because the amount of transfer is always limited by the amount of liquidity in the pool. And when our user does the transfer, there is slippage. And the best thing users can do is just like to set slippage tolerance parameter in order to kind of minimize the impact of that slippage. But if slippage tolerance exceeded, then the transaction is reverted and user gets like wrapped asset. That's why this model is not really suitable for the cross-chain environment. The second problem with pools is security, because like any liquidity pool or statically locked liquidity is a honeypot for hackers. And like everyone is trying to exploit bridges because there is like huge honeypot, right? And there are so many attack vectors. And third problem is capital efficiency. Like in order to attract and retain liquidity in the pools, all the bridges have to distribute incentives, right? And since the interest rates interest paid by US treasuries is high, like bridges now have to pay at least 15% APR on liquidity. So imagine like if bridge has $100 million of TVL, it bears $15 million of cost on liquidity. So in order to be capital efficient or profitable, bridge got to generate more than $15 million in fees annually, just like to be break even. And that's almost impossible. And we were thinking, okay, like cross-chain environment is asynchronous, right? Because chains are not connected. They're not like synchronized. So that means that we should basically use asynchronous design for the cross-chain value transfers as well. And instead of using pools, we can use sort of networking, right? Where users can create an intent that can be fulfilled by other market participants, like solvers who are experienced in risk management and who can do this fulfillment very quickly. So we came up with this idea of zero TVL design, where when user wants to create the trade, he just says, look, guys, I'm giving like 100 USDC on Polygon, for example, to anyone who will give me 99 USDC on Solana. And the first solver that fulfills the intent and provides user directly with 99 USDC on Solana, so directly from his balance sheet, will be able to send a cross-chain message back to Polygon and unlock this 100 USDC on the source chain and earn the spread. So it's just-in-time liquidity model, right? And solvers are incentivized just-in-time as well. So there is no interest that bridge got to pay continuously in time, like all others. And that's why deBridge became like the first and the only one so far profitable bridge that managed to break even. And the intense model is very interesting, right? So originally, like for the same chain trades, it was pioneered by the CowSwap team, and then 1inch Fusion also kind of evolved that model. But no one has ever applied this model for the cross-chain environment before us. And intent is quite interesting primitive, and it's simple, right? You give a reward for result that you want to achieve. So you say, okay, guys, just like as an abstraction, I give 10 USD to anyone who will go to supermarket and buy me a bottle of milk for $5, right? So basically anyone who will fulfill my task or intent will earn the spread, like $5, right, for the service. Same way it works for the cross-chain environment. So users create intent that are getting immediately fulfilled by solvers who compete for that. And intents can be very complex. It's not only about trading. I can also say like, look, I'm giving like $100 to anyone who will get me 98 USDC supply to Camino on Solana, or to anyone who will open for me a long position on Sol in Zeta markets, and so on. So yeah, Intense is very flexible model that allows to abstract away all the complexities from users to professional market makers who are like experienced in the risk management and who is getting rewarded for that. So yeah, this is basically how it all started, and that's why deBridge is also like very fast compared to other bridges, because solvers also take on any risks of transaction finality, transaction reworks, plus any risks of messaging as well. Like users don't need to know anything about like validation layer of the messaging. They don't need to be afraid of like collusion of the validators, because when they do the trade, it's getting settled in seconds. So basically the time period during which user bears any risk is very, very short, right? And then solver is the one who provides liquidity upfront, and then solver needs to initiate cross-chain message and sort of keep in mind any risks of the collusion or like any risks of the validation layer of the cross-chain infrastructure. And they're experienced in this like risk management. So yeah, that's basically how the model operates.
Thank you. Now, I think you guys are the biggest volume generator of the bridge in Solana and EVM. And, that's quite an accomplishment. But from here, what are the like key milestones or roadmaps that you guys, looking ahead?
Yeah, first wanted to comment on the volume side. So we indeed #1 bridge for Solana ecosystem. For EVM, we are on the top of DeFi Lama always and competing with like one or two other bridges. But what is really important to understand about the bridging protocols that volume is not very reflective metrics, right? Because it's not enough to build a protocol that generates volume or processes like higher volume, because like if you don't charge any fees, then it's easy to draw any arbitrary number, in terms of number of transactions and volume as well. But the biggest challenge is to generate sustainable economy, right? To make it truly decentralized, like economy where you can generate volume and plus accrue value for the ecosystem. That's what is really difficult. And what we're really proud of is that we are like the bridge that manages to accrue value as well. And deBridge charges fee, like many other bridges, right? And what is important is that users understand what they're paying that fee for, right? They pay that for speed, as we are the fastest on the market. They paid for security, because deBridge is probably one of the only bridges that never had any security incidents, never had any discovered vulnerabilities. And we are very proud, to maintain these high standards in terms of security and like 100% of the uptime for our infrastructure. And the third point is decentralization. That's also why fees are important, because like if bridge does not charge any fee, then it's kind of a multi-chain play. Multi-chain was also like super popular bridge that was free, and then it ended up as a sort of rug pull, right? Or basically like everyone who's custodied assets for the multi-chain lost their liquidity. That's why it's important to kind of differentiate bridges, not only in terms of like fees, but also like not only volume, but also like fees, and understand like where those fees are going to. And so far we managed to collect almost $10 million in fees since deBridge mainnet launch. So yeah, we're not only generating volumes, but also like managed to accrue some value to the treasury. And I already forgot what was your question.
Yeah. Next milestone or roadmaps that you guys are trying to like achieve?
Yeah. So basically, decentralization of governance is one of the big milestones, obviously, and we are working, to align on strategy, kind of prepare everything, because like we are very careful about the execution. We want to execute professionally, and of course, decentralization is kind of very important step, and we are working toward the TG now. But at the same time, if you follow Twitter, like we keep cooking, we keep shipping, right? So just last week we released deBridge P2P. So in our app, you can notice the new tab, which is designated for users who are looking for compliant trades or institutions who want to perform OTC deals in a non-custodial manner. So deBridge P2P is the first ever cross-chain OTC desk, right? Where anyone can just settle any deal in a fully non-custodial manner without counterparty risks. And that's quite cool, because users don't need to kind of custody assets with exchanges or OTC desks. They can negotiate the term of any deal like privately on Telegram or through email, and then just like create a cross-chain trade where they can specify the address of the counterparty, and that counterparty will settle the trade. And I think that this is like really cool feature that would allow big institutions to be, confident in a cross-chain OTC market. And also, we just enabled kind of compliant cross-chain trades for regular users as well, because sometimes, like when you do the trade, you want to make sure that your trade was not settled by liquidity from Tornado Cash or by liquidity from some dark markets, because like after that, if you transfer liquidity to centralized exchange, it will get frozen, right? Because like all the centralized exchanges already kind of do due diligence and like track deposits. And that's why you want to be confident that like liquidity that is coming from the bridge is good, right? And that you can use it. And to enable that, it became possible due to this like intent-based model with zero TVL design, where users can fix the address of the counterparty. And we also partner up with the institutional liquidity provider Rockaway, who can be one of the counterparties. So when you now create a market trade on deBridge, you can also optionally set Rockaway as your counterparty. And then as a user, you'll always be confident that this trade will not get fulfilled by any unknown solver, but it will be specifically known institution with very good reputation that who kind of provided liquidity for your cross-chain trade. And that's amazing, because that allows also like the whole new spectrum of cross-chain applications that were not possible before. And that also like gives more confidence for users who seek for this kind of opportunity. So it's basically optional compliance that anyone can leverage, not only like regular users, but more like professional market players. So yeah, this one was just one of the recent releases. Yesterday, we released the Arbitrum Horizon campaign. And that's also a big milestone. So I wanted to say a big thank you to Arbitrum DAO and Arbitrum Foundation for supporting this initiative that basically allows anyone to bridge liquidity through Arbitrum very efficiently, while getting fee rebated in the ARB token. And talking about also compliant trades, I just wanted to give like one last shout out as well to Fortify team. Because they managed to build amazing MPC infrastructure that basically we leverage with Rockaway in order to kind of bridge the gap between solvers and institutional on-chain liquidity, that kind of institutions such as Rockaway can control custody of that liquidity through this MPC infrastructure, while solvers can propose transactions. So yeah, just wanted to kind of bring up the few amazing teams and ecosystems such as Arbitrum, who are supporting different crazy ideas that we make up, but that seem to be working, right? And in terms of the milestones, so what is next? So TG is obviously one of the big ones. Plus, we are keep expanding horizontally in terms of number of chains that deBridge supports. And we have the framework or initiative that is called EOS, Interoperability as a Service, that allows any chain to plug into deBridge. So bridge like chains does not need to back any bridges to get integrated. Now they can just like initialize subscription, pay monthly fee to the DAO, and get connected to the most secure and the fastest cross-chain infrastructure, which is amazing. And we already got 9 blockchains who initialized this EOS subscription, and many of them already went live. So we just announced the integration with Metis ecosystem, and we already see a lot of traction from users who are like bridging liquidity to and from Metis. Before that, we added support of Gnosis, who also initialized the EOS subscription. So basically, we plan to do this like expansion. And plus, at the same time, we are also working on minimizing any operational costs of using deBridge. So in the next version, we plan to like drastically reduce the gas consumption, so that deBridge will become even more capital efficient, which is also amazing. And different cool features that are also on our pipeline, such as like gasless trades, where users don't need to broadcast transaction. They just sign the signature, like sign the message, and transaction getting processed by solvers themselves, even on the source chain. And gasless cancellation is also will be quite a big innovation, I would say. It sounds simple, but I think that will be the first to enable gasless cancellations for the cross-chain trades. And that should also additionally improve user experience. So yeah, we keep kind of pushing these boundaries, becoming faster. We are now the fastest, but like we are kind of pushing forward to be even faster, as many trades already take like less than a second on deBridge. And there are also a couple of other things that I can't reveal yet, but they will kind of enable even more efficient interoperability for the cross-chain space.
Very exciting. And now also, like you mentioned, people waiting for the TGE. What are the utilities, and also what's the benefit of holding or possibly they staking the tokens? Or if you can explain it, that'd be great.
Yeah, so first of all, deBridge will be a governance token, right? So community will have a say in the protocol development, and it will govern the ecosystem. So that comes to different utilities, right? The main one is like participation in the governance voting. So community will decide on different protocol parameters. So who should be the validators, for example, for deBridge messaging? How many validators we should have? Like what fees deBridge infrastructure should charge on different chains? Like what should be EOS fee, a monthly fee for the subscriptions initialized by various chains? And governance will also control the treasury as well. So now we've accumulated almost $10 million in the treasury. And the cool thing is that once token is live, DAO will get the efficient and the profitable protocol to govern over, plus the protocol that already have like a decent treasury that can be used, to develop the ecosystem further. So yeah, governance is the main utility. Staking is coming as well. It may take a bit more time, so it may get live after the TG. Yeah, but we are already working to launch it as soon as possible, because we think that like staking for the governance participation will be also important.
Sounds good. Time is running up, but is there anything that you want to touch upon before we go?
Yeah, maybe just the last thing I would also like to, since we talked about like Jupiter community and LFG, and since we are like deBridge will be launching an LFG launchpad as the venue for the token launch, just wanted to give a big shout out and thank you for Jupiter community, and the Jupiter team as well, for like supporting deBridge in various initiatives. And yeah, again, I think we managed to build some really interesting product synergies that many like thousands of users, or like hundreds thousands of users, are excited to use. And yeah, keep an eye on our socials, because we publish many interesting product updates, and also share different things about the vision and like the approximate milestone that we are working to achieve on. And yeah, stay tuned. So interoperability and like bridging can be secure, it can be fast, and try out deBridge in order to see how it works. And yeah, thanks. Thank you so much to you, Joey, as well, for